Let me know when you get that in there, will you? I want to know as soon as you get it. You got it now. You got it now. Well, I'm not ready to use it, Red. No. Well, okay, maybe we should. I mean, because it is important. There's no question. But let me open the program first. Greetings to you, conversationalists all across the fruited plain. You are tuned to the award-winning, thrill-packed, ever-exciting, increasingly popular, growing by leaps and bounds, Rush Limbaugh program, and we are raring and ready to go, folks. So much to do, and relatively so little time to do it. Let me tell you what's coming up on the program today. I've been thinking all night, how can Bill Gates get out of this mess that he's in with the Justice Department? And I've come up with a solution, my friends. Bill Gates should learn from Bill Clinton. He needs to download the Clinton game plan. This is great. If you people at Microsoft, I want you to tune into this. I want you to listen to this. I want you to take this to corporate because this will work. Also, Elton John's song For Princess Di, Candle in the Wind, is now the biggest selling single in the history of the world. 2 million copies. Wait a minute, Mr. Snerdley, what's wrong with that? How come, of all things in the news today, that would make you frown? It has outsold Bing Crosby's White Christmas by 2 million copies. But there's controversy because some greedy retailers are keeping the profits for themselves. They are not forwarding the profits on to Princess Di's charities. Elton John and a record label are. The retailers are saying, hey, we didn't make any deal here to send the profits along. There's about $1.50 profit at every CD. They're selling the CD for $3.79. I think there's a $3.59, something like that, unless you're getting gouged somewhere. And the profit in it is about $1.49 or $1.50. Also, my friends, out in Martinez, California. Martinez, for those of you near Augusta, Georgia, Contra Costa TV viewers are getting ready, bracing themselves to watch instructional videotapes on breast self-examination. And I'm going to make a pitch that is discriminatory. I'll have the details coming up. Also, the Million Woman March is set for, it's coming up this weekend, isn't it? Million Woman March, is it coming up this weekend? I haven't heard anybody raise any fears or hackles about the Million Woman March as they did with Promise Keepers. And the Million Woman March is totally political. They've even endorsed a candidate, Maxine Waters. For what? They don't care and they don't know. They just endorsed her. Promise Keepers never did anything of the sort, and for 2 weeks prior to the Promise Keeper event, suggests of, is this good for America? Does Promise Keepers pose a threat? Hear now the Million Woman March, and there's nary a word about it. But my friends, also the president, the focus group data is in. Obviously, the American people don't like his position on maintaining the tax code as it is, maintaining the IRS as it is. And so the president does what the president always does when the focus group data is in. He flip-flopped. The front page of the New York Times has 2 Clinton flip-flops side by side. He's flip-flopping on global warming just a bit and flip-flopping totally on the IRS and taxes. The story is that the president caved to Gephardt when Gephardt got a whole bunch of House Democrats to go along with him in joining the Republicans to overhaul the tax code and to reform the IRS. But first, ladies and gentlemen, we open the program today with a heavy heart. Bruised feelings. Much of the morning, many in our staff, having learned of the news, fought bouts of depression. We consoled one another, held hands, discussed our feelings, found that we shared many common feelings. And in this mutual sharing of feelings, we all ended up feeling better, knowing that we were all miserable, knowing that we were all hurt, mutually shared misery in the offices of the EIB network this morning. About what were we miserable? Why were and are, in some cases, our hearts still heavy? Why will be getting through this day one of the toughest challenges we've faced in many days? Because, my friends, we have our first victims of El Nino. Many have made a valiant effort to stop El Nino dead in his tracks in the ocean. Only last week, the valiant efforts of our vice president, the beloved Al Gore, were on front page display. He urged the people of California to band together, to hold hands, to stop El Nino. If we work soon, if we work fast, and if we work together, we can beat El Nino. Well, the vice president either didn't know or didn't think of all who could be affected by the ravages and the unfeeling El Nino. The El Nino doesn't care who or what gets in its way. It's just going to do what it does. By the way, our music appropriately culled from Neil Diamond's Jonathan Livingston Seagull, because the first victims of El Nino are off the coast of Alaska. Hundreds of thousands of Alaskan seabirds are thought to have starved to death because of El Nino. The deadly sound of the ocean surf, threatening all mammal kind and all fish kind. The soothing sounds of the ocean surf. Who would have ever thought, ladies and gentlemen, that the soothing sounds of the ocean surf represent a heartless, thoughtless killer? The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service said clues to the killer of seabirds washed ashore from the Gulf of Alaska all pointed to El Nino. What appears to have happened, ladies and gentlemen, the birds appear to have died because warmer sea temperatures forced their normal food sources, plankton, small fish, deeper into the ocean beyond their reach. The seabirds can only dive so deep. But because of El Nino warming the ocean off the shores of Alaska, those foodstuffs decided to be comfortable themselves and seek deeper depths beyond which the precious and beloved birds could not plunge. One fisherman told the Fish and Wildlife Service that he had spotted more dead whales than usual. And like seabirds, our friendly whales also eat krill. Vivian Mendenhall, a Fish and Wildlife Service seabird biologist, said the water was unusually warm this past summer. For different species in different places, that created difficulties in finding food. Life isn't fair, not just for us, not just for humanity. No, life isn't fair. The birds off the shores of the great state of Alaska, birds that are, in fact, idiots. They don't think, they just do, programmed by our great creator. The bird has no idea why the food isn't there. It just dies when the food isn't there. The valiant efforts of the United States government, led by Vice President Al Gore, we hate to record, have shown their first failure. So we'd like to take this moment to offer our heartfelt condolences to all the relatives of these hundreds of thousands of Alaskan seabirds, bird watchers, bird studiers, bird lovers around the world. It's not even winter time, and we have the first victims of El Nino, said to be a wintertime killer. Who's next? It could be you. Your government has failed the Alaskan seabird. Will your government fail you? Having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. Rush Limbaugh, invincible in the face of El Nino. We'll be back in a moment. 1-800-282-2882 if you'd like to be on the program.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
Time for opinions and analysis of the news with Tom Trotta. Way back when the world was young, when I was a kid, the worst trouble you could get in was busting old Mr. Lapidus's garage door window with your baseball, which would make Mr. Lapidus start chattering incoherently as if he'd been struck by a lightning bolt. Or maybe you'd try to purchase a six-pack of beer with a fake draft card. Now, there was a smart thing to do. Vietnam War going on, and here you are walking around the street with a fake draft card that says you're old enough to fight. Brilliant. But those infractions pale by comparison with the goings-on in high schools and colleges these days. Take Tennessee State University, please. An apparent drug deal gone bad at one of the dormitories has left one man dead and another in fair condition. 22-year-old Antoine Hester, a former TSU student, is in custody, according to police detective E.J. Bernard.
He is the individual that shot the man that expired. And this individual is going to be charged with criminal homicide due to the fact that they were committing a felony, also carrying a weapon on school property, which is also a felony.
The good detective adds that 5 people were involved in the shooting, including one TSU student who still is at large.
They were all 5 involved in an illegal drug transaction, which is a felony. They were committing a felony. Because of this felony, one individual was shot and killed.
Gee, not quite like swallowing goldfish or going on panty raids at the girls' dorm now, is it? Meantime, in suburban Detroit, not in the Motor City itself, but out in the suburbs, they're coping with the 5th suicide at Henry Ford High School since June. Lillian Demas is the principal.
Right now, we're dealing with the grieving process. They're very concerned about the attention that this is bringing forth, and they're trying to make sense out of this inexplicable, horrible act.
She says experts have been called in to prevent more suicides.
We have instituted our crisis center. We have brought in many, many social workers, psychologists, and counselors to meet with students individually and in groups. We're providing them all sorts of support.
And down in Pearl, Mississippi, the city remains in shock in the aftermath of a shootout at that high school, which left 2 students dead.
There's been counseling provided at the high school and also here at the PD the couple days after the shooting. As far as the parents and all, we are looking into providing some kind of counseling for them in the very near future.
That's Mayor Jimmy Foster in Pearl, Mississippi, appearing on ABC's Good Morning America. Somehow, as a parent, although my little guy is still a toddler, all this violence and mayhem in high schools and colleges makes me just a wee bit nervous. Because if things are this bad now, where are we headed in the next 15 or 20 years? I don't know the answer this morning, but if you are a parent like me, we'd both better start demanding some answers in the exciting days ahead. For Daybreak USA, I'm Tom Tretta.
Highly trained and specially licensed broadcast specialist and host, Rush Limbaugh, the Excellence in Broadcasting Network, also the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. Brace yourselves. That's not too bad, is it? I mean, that's not as bad as like I did it yesterday, real loud and close to the mic. I mean, bad. I mean, a lot of people get irritated at that. But I do it, my friends. I'll tell you why I do it, to let you know I have something in my hand. I'm painting pictures here. Some of you, of course, have very dull minds, and I need to do all I can to get through. Not all, but some. Got to reach out and touch everybody here. I have today's issue of the Hotline. It's just published. It's published every day. It's been off the presses about 45 minutes. The Hotline basically is a digest of things that have happened in politics since it published yesterday. News, television shows last night and this morning, C-SPAN, whatever happened, highlights and so forth. And this is a paragraph about the Supreme Court. You're smiling now, Mr. Snerdley, but you won't when you hear this. Many of you are going to be made physically sick when you hear this. Publication called Capital Style, S-T-Y-L-E, has a story in which they muse about the possibility of a Chief Justice, Bill Clinton, the one job that Clinton would find fascinating and challenging enough after his days in the White House. They got a quote from McCurry. They talked to Mike McCurry about this. McCurry said, quote, "Of all the things I've been asked to speculate about, that's the first that has the ring of plausibility to it," unquote. The reporter asks, would President Gore have the courage and audacity to appoint him? A White House aide replied carefully, he would if the appointment was a popular one. Simon writes, the author, writes on whether a Republican Senate would vote to confirm. It's possible, assuming he was free of special prosecutor problems. An administration source says, I'd be truly shocked if the Senate rejected Clinton as Chief Justice. And it doesn't matter if it's a Republican or Democrat Senate. He'd be treated with the respect a former president deserves. There would be some huffing and puffing, but at the end of the day, Bill Clinton would be confirmed as Chief Justice. This is the White House opinion, whether there's a Republican Senate or not. The story goes on to point out that, like Clinton, current Chief Justice William Rehnquist had no experience as a judge before being named to the court in 1971 by President Nixon. Chief Justice Earl Warren, appointed by Eisenhower in '53, also had not previously been a judge. You don't have to be even a lawyer to be on the Supreme Court. I mean, you do, but it's not constitutionally required. You never get past the recommendation. I mean, you'll be trashed in the hearings, but you don't have to be a judge. And these are two examples of Clinton, of course, has never been a judge. Rehnquist will turn 77 in the year 2001, but if he were to resign while Clinton's still in office, Capital Style prefers or offers this scenario. Clinton resigns, Gore becomes president, and puts Clinton on the court. It's in the November '97 issue of Capital Style that if Rehnquist quits before Clinton's term is up, Clinton will quit and Gore will appoint him Chief Justice, and the Senate will have no choice but that to confirm him. Yeah, there's an excellent point. Chief of Staff HR asks, would Gore have to pardon Clinton before appointing him to Chief Justice? So the big question here, but can you believe this? Can you believe McCurry's quote? I'm sorry to ruin your day. First, it's the seabirds off the coast of Alaska, the first known victims of El Nino, and then I hit you. with the very plausible possibility, in the words of Mike McCurry, that Bill Clinton's the next Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the highest court of the land. Gee, what a day. What a start. Let's go to the phones. We'll go to Rome, New York. This is Joe. Welcome to the program, Joe. Nice to have you with us.
Hey, thanks, Rush.
You bet.
Your comment on the seabirds there.
Yeah.
What I got from that was that you're implying that since El Nino, a natural act, wipes out millions of birds.
Hundreds of thousands. Let's not make it worse than it already is.
I'm sorry. I picked it up right at the end there. I just got in the car.
Hundreds of thousands, not millions.
Okay, whatever. But therefore, it's okay if we ourselves wipe out species too. That's what I got.
How in the world can you possibly get that? Of all the things to engage. See, I was.
Well, Rush, I got that because I've heard you before mention, like, listen to me. I've been listening for years now.
I understand, but that's an error. I'm going to go ahead. You finish.
I've heard you talk about how the ocean floor leaks oil.
It does.
And the same amount of oil that, like, say, Exxon Valdez dumped out in a day. So since it happens naturally, if we spill a little oil, no big deal. And I just think that's crazy.
Have you been up to Prince William Sound lately?
I have not.
Well, it's pretty clean. It's got cleaned up a lot fast. You know, there were some people up there with some, what is it, Dawn. Dawn cuts grease. They actually were up there with paper towels and Dawn on the rocks. They were. I am not making it up. Look it up. There were cases of the stuff shipped up right after the spill.
Listen,
and the environmentalists were predicting doom for decades up there. It's already, the salmon fisheries, the salmon runs are at record levels. The earth cleans itself up. When you have oil seepage from the ocean floor,
yes,
it dissipates. It's over the whole ocean floor. It's not like there's an Exxon Valdez down there spewing the same amount of oil in one spot. The ocean has the ability to cleanse itself, absorb these things, and it does. But your interpretation of my memorial service for those birds is entirely wrong.
Oh, come on. I've been listening to you for years. You do it all the time.
What are you thinking I said? What is the point you took from that?
The point I got from that was that basically what you're saying is that since nature itself wipes out like hundreds of thousands of birds like this, if a particular plant or a particular human act does it too, no big deal.
How can you say that? You know, this is dangerous. I say what I mean. I like what I say. I like the way I sound when I say it. I'm very proud of what I say, and I did not say that.
Well, you did not say that.
Okay, so you're inferring.
No, you implied it, though.
How could I imply it?
Oh, come on. You did, too.
You didn't miss. You missed the whole point. You know, I may have to replay this.
I
may have to replay.
If
you are representative of the thinking out there, then I may have to do it again. Because you trust me. I mean, if you were right, I'd tell you, and I would applaud you as a clever listener. But you've got this one wrong. I had nothing at all in there about human behavior versus vis-a-vis animals. So
you genuinely feel sorry for all these birds?
You damn right I do.
Okay.
Absolutely I do.
All right.
You know, you don't know me. You people don't know me.
Listen, I know what
I love ocean birds. You don't know this. I love ocean birds. My favorite bird in the world is a pelican, followed by the blue heron, then an egret. I love them, and I would hate if this happened. And I thought the vice president was going to stop it. Does that help?
AFRTS News, Navy Chief Dave Evans reporting from Washington. People used to joke that if the military wanted service members to have families, it would issue them. But today's military leaders recognize family members as important players on the Defense Department team. The News Center's Gene Brink files this report.
DoD is promoting a wide range of family-friendly services and initiatives, including a child care program that President Clinton referred to earlier this year as a national model. Officials say taking care of families benefits employers as much as their military and civilian workers. Army Lieutenant Colonel Bill Hewlett is the Associate Director of DOD's Office of Family Policy.
Focusing on and attending or assisting them with some of their family or personal responsibilities can really be a big advantage in terms of their work output.
DOD's programs run the gamut, from teaching new moms and dads about parenting to the elder care program that helps workers struggling to care for aging family members. The Pentagon is also aiming to put more quality time in workers' days. It's encouraging managers to offer flexible work hours and to let workers telecommute when it's feasible to cut down on long commutes. Officials acknowledge the mission always comes first, but Colonel Hewlett says they encourage managers to promote DOD's family-friendly policy whenever they can.
It's critical commanders support it, but it's also critical commanders, understand and believe in the whole philosophy.
DOD isn't the only employer recognizing the value of family-friendly initiatives. Colonel Hewlett says other federal agencies and the private sector are introducing them and benefiting from them too. Gene Brink, Washington.
And that's our report. For the Department of Defense, I'm Navy Chief Dave Evans at the AFRTS News Center in Washington.
I'm Deborah Bird.
And I'm Joel Block for Earth and Sky, Wednesday, October 22nd. If you look in the west after sunset, you can see Earth's two closest neighbors in orbit around the sun. That is, you can see them both if you look carefully. These two worlds are Venus and Mars, and you'll have no trouble seeing Venus. It's the brightest object in Earth's sky, with the exception of the sun and moon. Mars can look bright too when it's near Earth. But right now, Mars is nearly 16 light minutes away, nearly as far from Earth as it can be. It appears next to Venus now. The two will be closest on this coming Sunday evening. But while Venus is bright, Mars is exceedingly faint.
Venus and Mars are both easier to see from Earth's southern hemisphere than they are from the northern half of the globe. Right now, the ecliptic, or path of the sun, moon, and planets, makes a narrow angle with the horizon as seen from Earth's northern hemisphere each evening. So the planets appear low in the sky after sunset. From the southern hemisphere, the opposite is true. The ecliptic makes a much steeper angle with the horizon each evening, and Venus and Mars appear higher in the sky after the sun goes down.
From either hemisphere, watch for them, a bright planet and a faint one, in the west as soon as the sky gets dark. Our show is Earth and Sky, and with thanks to the National Science Foundation, we're Block and Bird for Earth and Sky.
I am not a doctor, but I play one on the radio. This is the sound of Rush Limbaugh's heartbeat, which proves two things. One, he is human. And two, he has a very large heart. Staff making fun of me. Who is that? Is that Patricia Ireland? Is that a... Oh, that's a bird scream. See, the birds didn't scream. They started to. It's a slow, painful. Staff making fun of me. Who is that? Is that Patricia Ireland? Is that a... Oh, that's a bird scream. See, the birds didn't scream. They started to. It's a slow, painful, day by day expiration. Scream. Welcome back to the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. Hey, good news, ladies and gentlemen, reflecting a bipartisan consensus that another government shutdown would be awful. The House of Representatives overwhelmingly voted today to keep agencies running while Congress and the president sort through lingering budget fights. The House approved legislation by voice vote to keep the government functioning through November 7th, when lawmakers hope to adjourn for the year. Hey, you know, that's only 2 weeks from now. Maybe 3, but this is great news. Senate Majority Leader Trent Lott said the Senate probably would vote on the measure Thursday. That's tomorrow, a day earlier. The day an earlier stopgap bill expired. Anyway, no government shutdown, my friends. You can rest easy. It isn't going to happen again. And the people in Dakota got their flood money. It all worked out. 800-282-2882 is the number. We'll have a review of the hearings that took place. They're underway now. Senate Finance, the campaign finance hearings are underway, and they didn't do any witnesses this morning. It's dueling videotapes. Fred Thompson went through a list of videotapes of Clinton, and they played the one where Clinton mentions that he's disadvantaged because he doesn't have any of me on his side out there. And the Democrats went out and got, John Glenn played just a slew of Reagan videos in a vain attempt to illustrate that both sides do the same thing. And Fred Thompson had a very poignant retort when John Glenn had finished. And I'll have that for you coming up in mere moments. But first, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Microsoft affair. And let me straighten one thing out. Yesterday on this program, I stated publicly that I'd never, ever paid for a browser. Remember that? Got Netscape, Internet Explorer, I have them both. Never, ever paid for one. Downloaded them, I simply followed the instructions on the various web pages. Click here to download, clicked there, and in moments I had my browser. Well, the email was full of caustic comments from people. You know, Rush, for a guy who talks about character mattering, you take the cake. It's not as though you can't afford a browser, Rush, and here you are bragging that you have ignored the agreement that comes in fine print when you download. You are supposed to pay for that, Rush. You haven't paid for it. You're no better than Clinton. You've disappointed me. I'm out of here for it. Stuff like that. So I got a phone call from my computer consultant. Man, I'm not going to give his name because then he'll be harassed. But he informed me that, oh yes, I've paid every time I've downloaded, and I've paid every time he's brought an upgrade by. Primarily, I've paid through my internet service provider. You end up getting billed. I have paid, ladies and gentlemen. I am current. I am up to speed. I am legal. Except I've never paid for the Microsoft browser because, as we all know, it's free. Now, back to the controversy at hand. What is Bill Gates to do? He's got the Justice Department after him. He got Janet El Reno on his case. In fact, I guess we should precede this with our El Reno update, ladies and gentlemen. Furnished and debuted yesterday. We got it from Paul Silhan. But I've got the solution. If Gates and Microsoft will just take my advice, thought about it all night, about a couple minutes, but I got the idea. And I'll treat you to it following our update theme.
Using her might, but not looking too bright, comes the madam called El Reno. Her pros are charades, but she keeps the critics at bay.
Stop the tape. How soon will we hear this song or a variation of it on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno?
With a tongue like jalapeno. El Reno, she sees what she wants to see. El Reno, she'll clear them from A to Z.
Those were sword swipes, if you're wondering what that sound effect was.
Some people say, why torture her name? by calling her El Reno. She's full of hot air, she spins but goes nowhere, reminding us of El Nino.
I was mad.
El Reno, she sees what she wants to see. El Reno, she'll clear them from A to Z. El Reno,
I was mad.
So what's Bill Gates supposed to do? It's very simple, my friends. Learn from the master. Bill should learn from Bill. This confrontation between Bill Gates and Janet El Reno, in other words, you could say Microsoft versus Micromind, in my mind, is easy to settle. This is the Clinton era, is it not? We live in the age of mellow apathy, do we not? Therefore, my friends, yes, the answer is, of course, yes. Therefore, all Bill Gates has to do to make this whole thing go away is to download the Clinton game plan. And for those of, just download it. For those who don't have computer, that's computerese for copying the Clinton game plan. So, the Clinton, right now it's free. I'm offering it free to anybody who wants to download it. And to download it, all you got to do is listen and take some notes here. Look at me as the server. Look at me as a server, and you're downloading it, and anybody at Microsoft wants to take this and try it. It can't hurt. I mean, it can't do you any worse than you are right now. Micromind on a vendetta against Microsoft. Okay. Gates calls a press conference, and he proclaims proudly that the era of big Microsoft is over. Just come out and say it. The era of Clinton. It's just say, the era of big Microsoft is over. And the audience go, hooray, yes, all right. They'll cheer him. And then he should announce, as soon as he says that the era of big Microsoft is over, that he is buying out Java and Quicken. That he intends to, as soon as he leaves a press conference, go out and buy Java and go buy Quicken. And then here come the charges. Why, that's even more monopolistic than what he's got now. So Gates should respond, monopoly? You say, I have a monopoly? I say, both sides have a monopoly. Yeah, we got Windows. Yeah, we got the Internet Explorer. Yeah, we have Java. Yeah, we're going to get Quicken. Yeah, we're going to own it all. But they've got the IRS. They've got the FBI. They own the school system. I think the American people are smart enough to realize, Gates should say, the American people are smart enough to realize that both sides do what's going on here. Both sides do it. And besides, the consent decree that they're saying that I violated, that's 2 years old. There's no controlling legal authority on internet providers anyway. This is all unresolved legal mush. And they're coming down, there's no controlling legal authority on it. Besides, what are we doing here at Microsoft? Everything we're doing is for the children, the future. We want our children of any age to be able to access the internet. Children of every color, children of every creed, children of every sex. That, my friends, is a real head start, not what the other side's talking about. Their head start's a bunch of bureaucracy. Microsoft's head start is a real head start. It's kids of every color, sex, creed, background, you name it, on the internet using Microsoft products. But what's wrong with that? Both sides do this. I say, my friends, as Bill Gates, that Windows 98 and the Internet Explorer and our new acquisition of Java, Oracle, and Intel, we're going to buy it all up. That's the real bridge to the 21st century. Not this government monopoly that stifles people like you and people like me. And Gates can't lose, because the media can't possibly comprehend this. The media, therefore, they can't cover it. The media will say, software, hardware, hell, it's all so complicated, who can even follow this? Just steal from the Clinton playbook. Era of big Microsoft is over. Just say it, and then go buy everything you can. Back in a moment. You're listening to the EIB Network.
Software companies often try to capture entire markets. This is TechNation.
If you even look more recently, there have been very few companies that have really adopted and understood that you can't do it by yourselves. And one of our genetic codes of the company has been, we can't do it ourselves. We need our partners, we need our close alliances, we need people out there who adopt our products, yet work in partnership and congruence with us. This really led to us understanding, no matter how quickly we move with customer needs, there will be people who will want to do things that we cannot fulfill. And most companies say, that's fine, and walk away, or say, you really don't need that. And we don't want to do either of that. We didn't want to be presumptuous or arrogant to really say we understand it all. What we said was, we will open NetObjects Fusion out in such a way that people can extend it to do things we had not envisioned.
Samir Arora is the president and CEO of NetObjects. By design, their first product offering, Fusion, allows interaction with any other software package.
A lot of our success in the last year has been because our strategy of knowing what the customer needs will be was right on. So it is a really good question. We've grown as a company. We founded the company in November of '95, and here we are a year and maybe 2 quarters later, and we're one of the fastest growing companies ever in Silicon Valley based on this principle. And what we were able to do back then was not look at how things were, but extract from how things were and people who were leading edge then how things would be.
Vision on the inside, alliances on the outside. For TechNation, I'm Moira Gunn.
Secure faxes from a tiny box. This is Soundbites, and I'm Jan Ziff. The problem was simple. Circuit Court Assistant Pat Grover needed to receive faxes, and she didn't have a fax machine. She did have a computer with a fax modem, but she couldn't leave it on all night for security reasons. So she needed a way to get faxes securely and retrieve them at her convenience. Enter the 3D Fax Pal Plus, a 6-inch square box which sits on her phone line, listening for fax tones. It receives her faxes even when her PC is turned off at night. Faxes are captured in flash memory, which is upgradable. So the 3D Fax Pal Plus holds up to 20 pages in its basic model and 180 pages with a memory upgrade. Fax Pal Plus is smart enough to know the difference between a fax call and a phone call. So if you're expecting an important call, it'll come straight through. Now, if it could only figure out a way to block those telemarketers. I'm Jan Ziff with Soundbites.
An excellent role model for the youth of America. This is the all-knowing and all-concerned, all-caring Maharishi. And back to the phones now at 800-282-2882, Richmond, Virginia, and Karen. Hi, welcome to the program.
Hi, Rush. Greetings from conservative Central Virginia.
Thank you.
Listen, your bit about Clinton on the bench.
That is not a bit.
Oh, but listen, wait. You're missing something. It's appalling to think of him actually being confirmed, but imagine the hearings. Picture the confirmation process. He would actually have to sit down, look up at that panel in the Senate, answer their questions. Can you imagine it? It's a conservative dream come true. He couldn't squirm out of it. He wouldn't be having the media direct, softballs at him.
What sort of questions do you envision being asked?
Look at Bork, look at Clarence Thomas. They were asked about every aspect of their lives. It is an opportunity for the man to have to confront some hardball. He'd have to answer questions that he has so far refused. And
I don't think he has any problem confronting hardball.
When has he really been taxed? Has he ever sat down in a forum like that that the public would have access to seeing and have to respond for hours possibly? I mean, look what was done to Bork.
I know. I understand your...
I mean, and why do you think he would be confirmed?
I haven't weighed in with my opinion on this. What I'm reporting to you is what is in a magazine, a November issue of Capital Style is the name of the magazine.
Okay. I can't imagine him being confirmed.
And the White House administration officials feel that the Senate, even if it's Republican-dominated at the time that this would happen, would confirm him, and he would actually sail through, is what they think. It might be, there might be some huffing and puffing, like you say, that there might be some trouble here, but they wouldn't find any reason to disqualify him.
Oh,
and even after all that he'd make it through. And what's interesting here is that they asked McCurry, I guess McCurry gets asked all the time, what's Clinton going to do when he leaves the White House? And McCurry's answer to this possibility of him being Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, quote, of all the things I've been asked to speculate about, that's the first that has the ring of plausibility.
I'm so surprised to hear that. I mean, if I were Bill Clinton, I wouldn't have the nerve to confront that situation, and I don't think he does. I mean, it would not be going into the...
I think you misunderstand him. I think...
Maybe.
I think he would relish it. Actually, I think he doesn't think he can lose in those situations. I think that's his element. I think he enjoys it. I think he thinks that he could slam dunk these guys on these questions.
Well, we may have
the question that I would have. I mean, we were just speculating about this during one of our commercial breaks here. Look at these two. I mean, let's talk about I know you don't want to imagine this, folks, and I'm sure you don't either, Karen. But let's just go forward and imagine that he makes the court. Let's say he gets confirmed. Now, one of the things that they ask every nominee, what is your political opinion of abortion? Because everybody's concerned about Roe versus Wade. Liberals ask that question. All these guys and all these women come up and they try to say, I'm objective. I really don't have any ideological preferences. I wait until the case comes before me before I make up my mind. With Clinton, we have an ideological record. We're going to have partial birth abortion support, by the way, on the record.
See, that's why, Rush, I feel that he's not from the judiciary.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't.
But there is all that stuff, all that ammunition.
Yeah, but
that I don't think he would want to face.
I think he thinks he can out-talk anybody on any of these things. And he's not talking to the Senate. He'd be talking to the American people. He'd be talking to his soccer moms out there when they ask him these questions about, I was doing what I thought was best for the people. Everything I did was only for the people, and that's how I'm going to behave at the court. Now, but look, I want to play this game. I want to go a little bit beyond the Senate hearings process. He gets on there. We know that this man makes up his mind about nothing independently. He has no core. We got two stories in the front page of the New York Times. He's flip-flopped on the IRS. And it's one reason. They got focus group data into the White House, which there's no winning position for him standing alone defending the IRS. So bammo, he's joining the anti-IRS brigades. Well, the question, Mr. President, what do you really think? If you really think the IRS is necessary as it exists and a tax code is necessary as it exists, as you stated only last week, then defend it. But he doesn't. So are we going to have a Chief Justice who will formulate his opinions on the basis of exit poll data and focus groups and so forth?
Oh.
That's just one of 9 votes, but
yeah, we probably would.
We're supposed
as we do in some other, on some states, at this time. But I can't even make that.
You can't get
to
there.
make the assumption because I just.
You don't think he'd survive the hearing process? I know.
No, and more than that, I don't think he would volunteer for it. I think Mike McCurry's. I don't know. Maybe he hasn't asked his boss, but I don't think he would even want to touch it.
I don't think that you understand this man.
Maybe not.
This man's thinking of what people are going to read about him hundreds of years of now. The first president who was president, first Democrat to serve 2 terms, years, first president to then go from the White House to the chief justice of the Supreme Court. He's only going to be 50-something, early 50s. And there's this guy is a big government statist, and he's a typical liberal that looks at the court as a primary mechanism of getting his views into the mainstream of society, not the legislative branch. If he can't do it there, he'll litigate, or he'll simply discover law and write law. I don't think that he's going to be content when this is all over just to go back to Southern California and play golf. I think you ought to reconsider this. You got to look at him from this standpoint, Karen. He's sitting at the White House with 60% in the polls. He's got to think that everybody against him has fired their best ammo. And he is as popular as any president has been at this stage in his presidency, other than Bush after the Gulf War, which is special consideration. He doesn't think he can be harmed by any of this stuff. Now, depending on how the Paula Jones trial goes, this is all contingent on that, whether or not there is an independent counsel appointed. If either of those things go against him, this is, I think, an academic question. It's really early to talk about, but it's out there. I wanted you to know, and we'll be back. Thanks, Carol.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
Hi, John Madden with a sports calendar for Wednesday, October 22nd. This week in 1993, the Phillies and the Blue Jays played one of the strangest games in World Series history. 11 pitchers gave up 29 runs. We'll hear from one of the survivors right after this.
So now, once again, let's join Crash Dummies Vince and Larry as the steering wheel turns. When we last left our dummies, Vince was suffering from amnesia.
Vince, it's me, Larry.
Larry who?
Don't you remember, pal, how we remind people to wear their safety belts?
Oh.
Gosh, maybe he's taken out one too many telephone poles.
Suddenly, there was a knock at their car door.
Who are you?
I'm Vince's long-lost sister, here to drum up painful childhood traumas that will hopefully jog his memory.
Like what?
I don't know. Here, try hitting him with this.
Larry! Vince! Fender to the forehead works every time. So, Vince, do you remember everything?
Well, I remember people aren't listening, so we've got to tell them to buckle up.
Yeah?
I remember safety belts save lives.
Anything else?
I remember you owe me $20.
Tune in next time when Vince says...
Thanks for helping me, pal.
Vince, don't thank me. Thank your sister.
But, Larry, I don't have a sister.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and the Department of Transportation.
In the 1993 World Series, neither Toronto nor the Phillies were having any trouble scoring runs. And as every pitcher found out, no lead was ever safe. But Game 4 beat them all. Toronto scored 3 runs in the first, and the Phillies scored 4. They scored 2 more, then boom, Toronto knocked in 4 more in the third to take the lead. Then the Phillies scored 6 more. Boom, Toronto put up 2 more. The Phillies scored 2 more. Then Larry Anderson came on as the Phillies' 4th pitcher. Tried to slow the Blue Jays down.
It was 14-9 when I came in. I don't remember exactly how it went. There were so many balls going everywhere. Things just didn't go right. They just did what they had to do.
Yep, and the Blue Jays pitchers finally did. Toronto scored 6 runs in the top of the 8th and stopped the Phillies' bats the last 2 innings. The final score was 15-14 Toronto.
You know, you're up by that much and a couple innings to go, and to have them come back. I don't think we were shell-shocked. We come back and won the next night, and there was just 1 loss.
The Phillies pitchers gave up 15 runs and 18 hits. Then the next night, Curt Schilling came back and pitched a 5-hit shutout before Toronto finally won it in Game 6. I'm John Madden on the Sports Fan Radio Network.
You have Daddy's nose and Grandma's blue eyes.
Some things, like noses and eyes, are automatically passed from generation to generation. Child abuse can also be passed down through families, but it's not automatic. It's something learned. Parents have a choice about how they act and what their children will learn from them.
Look at those tiny little ears.
To learn how to break the pattern of child abuse, contact Family Advocacy.
to take that call now. I don't care how quickly you think we can get this done. I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to sit. It's just unjust to give a caller who's gone through the trials and tribulations of getting through this program, perhaps been trying for 8 years, gets through, it's the most exciting day of that caller's life, and then to be told 30 seconds. I won't do it. I'm not going to do it. So we don't have time for another call here, ladies and gentlemen. We've got exciting things on the other side. And we're now polling our own focus groups out there in America as to whether or not we should repeat our memorial to the Alaskan seabirds, the first victims of El Nino. Keep you posted. Back in mere moments. This is a Rush Limbaugh program. Don't go away.